platform in renewables in Africa. And today we're going to be talking about a very interesting topic, right? Welcome to everybody. So, and the title of the session today is called How to Leverage Carbon Credit, and I would say even wider, carbon finance for sustainable growth. In a world where sustainability and also financial growth are often viewed as parallel paths, carbon credit, they have really emerged as a pivotal intersection. What they do, they allow businesses to meld environmental responsibility but also economic advancement. So the complex tapestry of carbon finance enable company not only to monetize their sustainable action but provide as well a tangible and financial incentive to decrease carbon emissions. And today, what we're going to be doing together is to dive into the world of carbon credit, carbon finance, with a distinguished expert, in the field, exploring strategies, benefit, and some challenges, right? That's actually presenting to you. So, how can your business navigate through the carbon finance landscape to foster both ecological and economic prosperity? So, well, that is actually what I'm inviting you to find out today. And what I have with me here, as I say, so it's not going to be me today talking to you about that. So, just like you, I'm just going to be learning as much as I can. But what I have with me, it's an expert. So she's called Claire Muchiri. So Claire, so let me welcome you here in the call. And Claire, I believe you work for South Pole. So what can we find out about you first before we dive into the topic? Rightly said.
Thank you, Tony, for having me. Yes, you're correct. I work for South Pole. And here at South Pole, I work with project developers within the continent, just exposing them to the carbon market and supporting them through the journey of how to engage within the market, register your project, get your credits issued, and then how do you manage this process and use this finance that would come into your project. Yeah.
Excellent. That is great. And I think we have loads and loads of questions for you, right? But before we go into the questions, I believe you have a nice presentation for us, just for us to get an idea what we are talking about here, and get a better sense. So, shall we go to the conversation to the presentation first, and then we can come back with some questions that I may have for you?
Yes,
Okay, that's
absolutely.
fine. So let me bring the conversation, the not the conversation, sorry, the presentation here. And I think it is here. And normally you should be able to control it. And what we do is while you go through that, I'm just going to be off screen, so I'll let you run it. And if there's a problem, I'm just going to pop in. And by the way, while you're doing it, if there's some question that people may have, please do ask questions. If there's anything you want to find out, so what I have for you here is Claire, who's an expert in carbon finance, and I'm sure she can tell you more. So Claire.
Thank you, Tony. And just to get us started, I'd like to know who we are engaging with today. So, on the chat, please introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, where you're listening in from, what you'd like us to share more about. And that way we can make this as productive as possible. So, please don't be shy. Um, Share your information. Let's get talking. As you work on that, let's look at why we're here. So, I am from Nairobi. Um, And recently we had the privilege of hosting the Africa Climate Summit. So this was such an iconic event that was held within the continent, allowing African companies, African organizations, and African people really to understand how they play into the climate change space. One of the issues that was keenly highlighted was different finance instruments that can be employed, whether by governments or by companies, to benefit from and to contribute towards climate action. The carbon markets or climate finance broadly is one of the key instruments that we have that we can employ to either to get finance and to put projects in the ground and up and running and how we contribute to climate action. Looking specifically at carbon markets, this is a market that has evolved largely since the 1990s. From the Kyoto Protocol that brought about the inception of carbon markets and compliance markets. These are markets that are controlled by governments. And here, governments set caps for emissions. And with these caps, creates a market for reduction of emissions. And when you can no longer reduce your emissions, then you have an option of offsetting your emissions. And how do you do this? By investing in climate projects. We'll take a look at what climate projects are down the line. To complement the compliance market is a voluntary market. This is a market that is largely driven by individual interests and motivated by environmental dynamics. So no one tells you have to, but people are just moved by this, what's happening within the environment, and choose to invest in projects, choose to invest in initiatives that would see the reduction of greenhouse gas emissions. Now, let's look at how these markets are, how you trade within these markets. What commodity do you have within the market? And I'm just going to put up a video that would tell us a bit more about what these markets are and how we engage in them.
You've probably heard the terms carbon credits or carbon offsets. But what exactly do they mean? A carbon credit is a unit corresponding to the avoidance or removal of 1 ton of CO2 from our atmosphere. The credits are issued by climate action projects that capture carbon dioxide from the atmosphere, for example, by planting trees, or prevent carbon from being emitted, for example, by stopping deforestation or replacing open fires with efficient cook stoves. The number of credits generated by a project is based on the tons of CO2 it saves. To guarantee that the impacts being made by a project are happening, our carbon credits are certified according to recognized international standards. These standards provide strict methodologies to calculate impacts, a harmonized auditing framework, and regularly monitor projects. They also ensure that the climate projects are well implemented, that they could not have been developed without the revenue from carbon credits, and that they create measurable and permanent climate benefits. Once issued, each credit is assigned a unique identifier and registered in publicly available registries to ensure that it can only be counted and sold once. In the fight against climate change, carbon credits are a proven way for companies to reduce global emissions today, while they work hard to shrink their own carbon footprint. These investments support sustainable development in the countries most threatened by climate change and scale pioneering new climate solutions. Want to know more about supporting climate action projects and speeding up the global transition to an environmentally sound world? Contact us today.
Yes. I find that graphics really bring out the element of vision. I can literally see how those credits move. And in a world where, or in a sector where we really can't feel, we can't touch this commodities that we are trading, just getting a visual aspect of it is really, really helpful and helps you to relate, helps you to see how things you do every day contribute to this market. And yes, we've gone through what a carbon credit is. So we're talking of 1 ton of carbon dioxide that is either removed or avoided from being emitted into the atmosphere. And this ton is what is traded as a credit. Yeah, so now that we have that in mind, we have seen what we're trading, how we're trading it. Then let's look at how things that you and I do every day contribute to this market, how we can be part of this market, and how we can engage in it with ordinary things that we do every day, but we don't really think or we don't really consider would be part of this market. Did you know that electricity and energy production accounts for 25% of the global greenhouse gas emissions annually? So if we stopped producing energy, then we would have reduced our emissions by 25%. But is that possible? Can we just stop? Can we wake up one day and say no more? Then it wouldn't be a world that is right and just. So how do we implement interventions that give us the services that we need, but also are good for the environment? So we have a number of interventions that we can deploy, and being in the renewable energy space, that really puts you at the forefront of it, because your operations provide the necessary energy that is needed for working economies, for homes, for transport. And this then can be quantified into a saving to the environment. We are also able to employ different interventions. For instance, how do we use our waste? Waste that's generated from our farms, waste that's generated from our processing industries. How can we convert that into something more usable? How can we utilize this remaining energy within the biomass and make useful use of it? Looking at our cooking sector, how can we improve the efficiency of the methods that we use for cooking? Being in Africa, there is still a prevalence of more traditional biomass-centered cooking methods. So not saying we're going to change all that, just saying, how do we improve the efficiency? How do we use less biomass? How do we use alternative sources of energy like biogas? How do we use ethanol? And how do we translate all these interventions, most importantly, into carbon credit? And with this, you have finance coming back to the project. There are different thresholds that would apply to this kind of projects. So depending on the intervention that you have, we can look at the scale, we can look at how far you've come, then we can assess how far do you need to reach for you to be able to access this market. This is just one aspect of projects that would be eligible. We have another entire subset of projects focused on nature-based solutions. This covers your forestry, your regenerative agriculture, your conservation work. And again, this can be captured and harnessed into a carbon saving. Now, let's take a more practical approach. Let's look at how carbon project is created and how it impacts day-to-day operations. We've worked on a solar farm in Namibia. So this is a 14,000 megawatt hour annual solar farm. It is located on the banks of the Orange River. So you can imagine the scenic river, and just beside it is this reef really of solar panels that have been carefully installed and blend with the ecosystem around it. This energy that is generated contributes to the national grid of the country and supports transition from a fossil fuel-based energy sector to a renewable-based energy sector. So when we look at it in terms of a carbon project, we have 14,000 tons of carbon dioxide that have been prevented from emission just because you have set up this solar farm. We have a myriad of jobs that have been created for the local people to maintain, to provide upkeep, to provide different services to this solar farm. Looking more broadly at the SDGs, touches on three key goals. So you have SDG number 13 on climate action, SDG number 8 on work and economic growth, and SDG number 7 on energy production. So with your project, you're able to frame it in such a way. And this particular project has been registered with an international standard. That's the verified carbon standard. Here, you trade this credit, and the revenue from the trade comes back to your project. And you can basically do and continue working on sustainable projects owing to this carbon revenue. And the beauty of it is you're being recognized for the work that you're doing. How are you different? How are you contributing more wholesomely to a cleaner environment? And this is how you get recognized. And at this point, Tony, I think we can just take a breather here and see what the audience has to say.
Okay, excellent. I definitely I've seen a few questions coming my way. Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, I can.
Okay, excellent. So I'm just gonna take off the presentation just for a minute. We can always bring that back if needed. I've definitely see some question already coming, so I'm gonna be showing that with you. We're gonna be tapping into that. But before we get into the questions, I have some few questions for me as well, right? So let me just get the opportunity to ask them. So that's fine. Yeah.
Yes, please.
So the first question, because I'm sure the people here with businesses, large businesses, small businesses, medium businesses. So I think if you can summarize in few words, how can they generate and trade those carbon, to foster sustainable growth? So in few words, what would you say? So if there's one thing that you need to get out of it, because I like to make sure that people clearly understand it, what would you say?
I would like to say the how is simple,
Mm-hmm.
but it's an extensive process. And it's
Mm-hmm.
extensive and rigorous just to ensure that there is trust from what is being the outcomes of this process. So you go through a detailed process where you would describe your project. You say you're writing a proposal, you'd write a detailed proposal about your project. Then you'd submit it to international standards. So we have a number of standards that we work with. We have gold standard, you have the verified carbon standards, where you have GCC, you have social carbon. And all these have different methodologies through which they assess your emission reduction. Once your project is registered, you go through a monitoring phase. So say 1 year of monitoring. And this period would vary by the standard and by the specific circumstances of your project. After a monitoring period, because we're saying that one carbon credit is equivalent to 1 ton of carbon dioxide either reduced or abated annually. So we're looking at the annual volume. And once we have quantified what that annual volume for your project is, then we come back and we go to the standards and they would issue credits of an equivocal amount. Once these credits have been issued, they are now available to trade. We can trade them to different organizations. You have companies that set up sustainability goals. And part of these goals is how to reduce your certain kind of emissions. So renewable energy projects would go into abating or offsetting scope 2 and 3 emissions. So those are the people we target. Those are the people who will buy these credits. And from there, now revenue from the sale now comes to the project. So it's a cycle that starts with work being done and ends with revenue coming back to the project. Yes.
Excellent. Thanks for that, Claire. Let me just ask another question, then I can start taking questions from people on the floor because I can see lots of people of questions actually coming. So, okay, I think yes, what you understood is it's not an easy process by all means, but to some extent it is worth it by what it gives to people. And that is why as well we're having experts like yourself. And that's also the reason why I wanted you to come together today to give us an idea of what it feels like, and just to say to people it's really within reach from you, your project. Yeah, so that's what we want to talk about. And let me just, like I said, one more question before I can start taking questions from people on the floor here, because I'm also mindful of the time. So what basically, how can really business strategically leverage the carbon credits, trading for their sustainability initiatives? And what sector would you say stand to gain the most from engaging with this practice? So how can businesses use that to leverage their sustainability initiative, and what sector would you say stand to gain in this?
Okay, looking at carbon finance in its elements, you are able to claim credits or claim emission reduction almost every year for a certain period of time for your work. So, say you set up a project this year, you set up your solar farm, it's up, it's running, you're paid by the contractor, you move on. That's scenario one. Working within the carbon markets ensures that it doesn't just end with the commissioning of the project. You're able to quantify and monetize your work years later. So, in the event that you would require more consistent revenue, carbon finance is that very avenue that ensures that you do that. You're able to claim credit, say, every year. Every year you receive revenue, and with the revenue that you receive, you're able to contribute to either more sustainability projects or even maintain your ongoing projects. So it's a source of finance that really allows you to have continuous revenue over and above your normal business operations. And with this, you can imagine how much you can achieve and how much you can leverage this market's instruments to do almost anything that you would like with the resources, the additional resources that you have. Yeah.
Hmm. Okay, so that's anyway. You wanted to say something else? Otherwise, I want to dive into the question from the audience, if that's fine with you.
Yes, yes. Let's go ahead. Thank you
Okay,
for your
so what we're
question.
gonna do? So there's lots of comments here. So if I'm missing one comment from somebody, please don't be don't be offended. So what I can promise you is definitely, even after this call, first of all, the call will be on our platform, so people can look at that on LinkedIn, on YouTube. You can review that if there's something that you missed, especially the video that Claire's missed. And also, I want to say to people, just after the call later today, we're gonna actually drop a link just for a report that South Pole, because Claire is working for South Pole, that South Pole has produced, and then I'm gonna drop a link for people who want to take a look at the voluntary carbon market report for 2022-2023. Yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. But we're gonna start taking some questions here. Like I say, if I miss your question, please don't be offended. So usually what I do, I'm just going to display that for Claire to see, and we can look at that, because we actually have multiple platforms connected here. So that's the reason we're doing like that. So let me just first of all read. Sometimes there's only a hello, because Claire, you want people to say hello. So yeah, they've been doing that as well. So Deborah here say, hello Claire, it's a great insight to the program. I would really like to know the process of solar developer, particularly of verifying the carbon saving into credit, because it is really tedious and cumbersome. So if maybe there's something you can say already there before we can move to the next one. So, and if we can keep the response relatively tight so that we can take as many questions as possible. Why Claire responding? If there is question, guys, just drop it there, because I think we have another probably 20 minutes to go. But after that, we need to wrap up, because Claire is a very busy lady, right? I'm sure we'll appreciate that. So yeah, Claire, I leave the question here so that you could see.
Okay. Thank you, Deborah. In terms of verifying, we have different actors who work in this market. So you have people like us who are carbon developers. So we would actually do most of the documentation that's needed for you to have your sort of carbon or emission reduction sort of quantified. From there, we work with third party auditors who will actually do the verification. And once the third party auditor has verified the work that you have done, they make a recommendation to the standards, who then approve this, and your credits are issued. Yes.
Okay, excellent. That's great. So hopefully, Deborah, it is clear for you. But don't hesitate as well to reach out to us, reach out to me, reach out to Claire if you have some further questions. Yeah.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
Deborah, I don't know where you were from, but I would imagine I don't want to say that 'cause if I make a mistake, she'd be mad at me. But I would like to think from the name probably Nigeria, but I may be wrong. Yeah, if I'm wrong, Deborah, I'm sorry. So I have that's Mumun from Cote d'Ivoire. You just say hello, credit to you. Happy to have you here. If you have a question, Mumun, please drop it here, and I have Claire, who is our expert today, this morning, right, to respond to that, to a question regarding carbon finance. So I have here that's Flo from Burkina Faso. So I'm working for clean energy for people resilience UNCDF, and I know Flo has asked question later. I think I've seen the question she asked, so I'm gonna look at that. Then one, let me just okay. That's for example first question for you. So okay, can I get the video and do you have a French version? So maybe you want to respond to that. I know. Yeah. Anyway, I'm not. You're here for that, Claire.
Okay. So we are doing this particular session in English. However, my colleagues are proficient in French. And once we connect, maybe off the platform, then we can just have this presented again to you in French or any other language, actually. South Pole is an international company and we speak almost all languages, actually.
Okay, that's fine. So Claire, I'm just gonna. I do speak French. I do a few words for you. No Claire, no Claire. Flore, yeah. So Flore, si tu veux la vidéo en français, ben écoute, South Pole a des vidéos dans des langues, dans différentes langues, en français, en espagnol, et ainsi de suite. Et si tu as des questions en plus, n'hésite pas à me contacter et on peut en discuter. Ok? Ça c'est pour Flore. Okay, back to English. So
Thank
next
you,
question.
Tony.
So it's what is the difference of impact between improved cook stove and GPL use? I'm sure you hear you understand all those jargon. Hopefully, maybe not.
Okay, maybe let's start with what you mean specifically in this case.
So okay, so that was a question from Flo. Okay, improved cooks. I'm not sure what GPL here stands for. Apology. So Flo, if you listen to us, if you can maybe explain what GPL is, and we can come back to that because I don't at the moment I don't know. So let me move to the next question. So, hi, hello, Claire. Could you please provide insight into successful case study where the utilization of carbon credit has not only reduced environmental impact, but also contributed significantly to sustainable development and expansion of businesses?
Okay, so the beauty with carbon revenue is that you, as a project owner, are able to fashion it in the form and shape that you would like. We only come in to provide access to the market. After that, you, as the owner, are able to grow this into whatever you would like. Aside from renewable energy projects, we work with, let's say, a biogas project. Here in Kenya, we have worked with one particular company that has distributed household biogas products across the country. Because of carbon revenue, this company has been able to expand from Kenya into other countries into Southern Africa. And in addition to that, we have seen other work, other community work, other sustainability initiatives pioneered by this project owner to enhance the communities where they work. So the form and shape that it takes is up to you, but the revenue is just here as an enabling factor. Thank you, Oluch.
Okay, thanks for that. And Oluwach from Kenya. So let me take another question here. Like I say, if I'm missing your question, guys, we apologize. And if you're watching this video in replay, just drop your question in the comment box. And what we do is we'll come back to that and review that and either Claire or myself, or maybe somebody from the team will ask or will respond to that. So, what process that Deborah? What process did solar facility undertake to get credit, and how long? So, how straightforward is this process? So, essentially, a solar facility want to get credit. So, what is the process? You probably responded to that, but as you can imagine, it's still not easy for people to understand. But breaking it down, and how long does it take? Because also the second part, how straightforward it is. I know what people are asking that, because when they sometimes look at the complexity, they get discouraged. So yeah, maybe you want to address that.
Okay, so looking at specific projects, you have a number of supporting factors. So the carbon project depends on the local legislation that is within the country. So that one is out of anyone's control. Then you have international regulations. So international standards have their own processes that they would require you to engage in. First is the documentation, an in-depth documentation of the project. Then you have stakeholder engagement. This is key because essentially a carbon project is meant to uplift host communities. So how have you engaged them, and how they stand to benefit from this? Thereafter, you have the third-party auditor that we mentioned before, who comes in to verify that this work has been done in line with standards. Then you have the standards, who now make the final call as to registering the project. They'd also come back and be the ones to issue the credits. So when you're looking at timelines, it would depend on at what stage your project is at. But please feel free to reach out to us, and based on your project circumstances, and we'll just let you know what we're looking at.
Okay, excellent. So next question that comes from Flo. So what are the? I think she meant who. Who are the actors of carbon markets? And who are the actors of carbon market? Let me just, and the next question she asked as well. Can you explain the mechanism? Yeah. So yeah, maybe I think the mechanism you explained, but maybe respond to the who actually are the actors of carbon market, so that people understand who is on one side, who are the other side, who is in the middle, and how does it all transit and transact.
Okay, so the carbon market involves quite a number of actors along the chain. So the first one and the most important person is the project owner. This is the person who has set up the project, say the solar projects. Then you have the project developer. That is, if not the same person as the project owner, then someone else can come in to sort of run and operate the project. Then you have the carbon developer, that is us, or any other company that works within this sector. And our role is basically to demystify the carbon market. As a number of the questions have highlighted, the direction, the process that this market takes is quite extensive, and all with good reason, but still to day-to-day project owners, it can be a bit much. So we come in to demystify this market. We come in to sort of curate what would be needed and present this information to the relevant parties in a way that will ensure that your project is certified and that credits are successfully issued. Then you have credit retailers. So in some instances, you have independent parties who procure credits from projects and then go ahead and sell these credits to interested buyers. Luckily for you, South Pole does both. Yes. Within the process, we also have the third-party auditors. These are, again, independent organizations that come in to check the methodology that has been applied to the project. For us to determine the volume of carbon savings that your project has, we need to use internationally recognized methodologies and with specific guidelines. So the third-party auditor does this. They ensure that What we have used is in line with the standards. Then we have the standards, who are certifying bodies who ensure that the projects that are registered onto their sort of registries are actually providing the impact that is needed. And lastly, you have the credit buyers, who are the ones who contribute to financing of these carbon projects. So they do this for different reasons, but essentially they do provide the finance and lifeline for these projects.
Okay, excellent. So let me take another question. This one I probably will need to help you a little bit because I'm not sure the question is clear enough to say, how do you ensure, that's Deborah, continue monitoring of solar project and how is it monitored? Site visit. Okay, I guess what she meant is once a project, I imagine, has been issued credit, right? So how do you ensure that, because obviously if the contract lasts over, let's say, a period of time, let's 6 months, a year, two, I don't know how long it is, maybe you can give some example of how long contracts last, and how do you monitor the asset to make sure that it's still producing and those credits are still valid. So yeah, I guess that's what she meant.
Okay, so carbon projects run for, as I mentioned, a number of years. So for instance, we have projects that run for 10 years at minimum. So a 10-year project would mean that once you register it in year one, it will continue to have credits issued every year until year 10. So what happens for these credits to be issued? There has to be verification that is done annually. So verification is essentially coming and taking a look at your projects. Yes, answering the question, is it still working? Is it working at the capacity that it was working initially? Is it doing better? Is it doing worse? So every year you have to conduct monitoring and evaluation of the project. And this monitoring will be what defines the amount of credits that are issued every year. So this ensures that within the 10-year lifeline of that particular project, it is working all through, and the revenue that is coming into this project is actually going into sustaining it and not just going somewhere else.
Excellent. So let's accelerate a little bit. I think it's already okay. Let's take maybe another 5 minutes. We're going to go a little bit above because there are many questions. I'd like to see how we can address as many questions as possible because that's why you're here, Claire, right? So you're here
Yes,
to ask
absolutely.
to answer questions. So, and some question I may have to skip because you responded to that already. So Deborah is very active. I think Deborah, we're going to be speaking to you afterwards. I feel that she's asking about, is the credit issue one time in life cycle of the solar project? You just responded to that. So essentially what you say here is it depends on the length of the contract. If it's 10 years, so that means every year it needs to be verified and there is a process to do that and so on and so forth to make sure that it's still qualified. If it doesn't qualify, it's going to pulled off. So that response to that. So question from Sandra. Sandra as well also has a few questions here. She was asking what's the range of the pricing USD per stone. So basically, what's the price range of the credit? I know it depends on the market, but what could you say there?
It's largely region specific.
Okay.
So there isn't a one shoe fits all. It is according to the region and according to the kind of project, really. Even though it's a solar project, where is it? How is it located? That determines the pricing. But again, if we can take a closer look at your project, then we can be able to offer you some insights.
Excellent. And also, carbon credit, those are commodities. The commodities really depend on the market, right? So because it's the law of supply and demand, which one is in excess, that will influence obviously the pricing. So it's clearly a market there.
Yeah.
So that's what we're saying to you guys. If you have projects that qualify, definitely do engage because, like I say, if you might like stock market, for example, work is the same here. For that's another type of commodity, right? So you want to be able to look at that. So Sandra has another question saying that can you share some specific of how you dealt with solar homes, HAS solar home system companies previously in onboarding them, monitoring them, and pricing the carbon? That's a very good question. And let me tell you why it's a good question because And also, you mentioned as well with the direct for Ghana, I think early on. A lot of people will sometimes think, rightly or not, that it's only big project that can tap into carbon credit. But solar home system, we definitely talk about smaller size here, and that may potentially qualify to many people that who are listening to the call now and probably later. So, just wanted to reframe the question so you understand it.
Thank you, Tony. And I think this question would usher us into our final slide,
Okay.
where we
Oh,
are
you didn't share that
addressing
yet.
just that.
I went on ahead of myself. Let me just get myself out and you can.
Okay, so what we have here is a different kind of initiative. So we've been talking about carbon markets. That's one avenue that you can use in terms of how to monetize your project. There are also renewable energy certificates. These ones are issued based on the size of the project and the capacity of the project. So you have a conventional IREC, which is equivalent to 1 megawatt hours of energy generated. So what happens if you do not have a megawatt hour? What happens if you have 100, 1,000 systems? So how can we aggregate those systems and put them in a form that is tradable internationally? So we have a distributed renewable energy certificate, which considers smaller units where one direct is equivalent to 1 kilowatt hour. And as you can see in line 1, you can aggregate a number of these systems, whether it's households, whether it's a mini grid, whether it's a commercial and industrial installation. And these can all be aggregated into a common platform, which is now the direct platform. Then they can be aggregated and sold, and the revenue flows back in the same fashion. So this is a way of addressing solar home systems, off-grid systems that are not necessarily huge, but are also numerous. So this is how you can work into the climate markets using decentralized renewable energy certificates. And currently we have an amazing opportunity in Ghana. So we are running a program looking for projects within Ghana that are producing this kind of credits. And with this, we are able to find buyers for them. And being that renewable energy or solar home systems have a monitoring aspect to them, whether you're using PayGo, whether you're using IoT, whether you're using whatever form of tracking that you have, really contributes to the traceability of the system. Because with the existing infrastructure, you're able to tell how that the system is running, the size of the system, and with this, you have easy traceability. So I think this would be a very good platform for you to engage in and register your project into for you to get access to this market, even though you do not have megawatt hour projects or would like to get involved in this particular initiative. So yes, please reach out to us. This is currently ongoing. We have a lot of opportunities running here. So yes, this is the time to get involved. Thank you, Tony.
Okay. Thanks for that. So essentially, guys, what you see here, there is a way for you guys now with smaller project to engage, right? Where we're aggregating our project together so that they can make sense. And obviously, Southport is doing that. That's fantastic. Definitely, I'll tell you, definitely do reach out to yourself. I'll be more than happy. I know somebody was asking for the email of Claire. I think I will leave Claire afterwards. She's free in the comment to drop a detail. But what I was gonna say, low hanging fruit, guys, you can reach out to Claire on LinkedIn, right? So send her send her a message. She can also respond to that. I'm aware that the slide were a little bit small, but what I would say that when I provide the link later today. So you're going to be clicking on that. You're going to be able to download those slides and you will get that. So let me take a couple of questions. Like I said, it looks like we may be here until tomorrow. So, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay. Let me, in fact, Clay reminded me that I can simply, yeah, the slides are there, but they may be a bit small. Let me see if people can see. If I go off, I can take that. No, oh, no, I just wanted to have the slide, not me. Okay, I can see that. That's to see who is actually listening. So that's what we're gonna do, Claire, for people who are listening, and we're gonna send a link. They'll be able to send us to get to download the slide, and they can see all the details they want. But I wanted to say, because we need to start wrapping up here. There's just so many questions. Okay, so but anyway, guys, we probably gonna have to do some follow-ups here, right? Because like I say, as I said to you, Claire, it's a question, it's a topic a lot of people have question about that. And as you can see, they want to find out a lot more. And yeah, so we see what we can do. So Deborah was just saying that she was asking a question here. So let me take a question from somebody else than Deborah. At least we can tap into others. By the way, before, GPL is gas, yeah? It stands for, that's what it's, gaz de pétrole liquéfié, so liquefied gas. That's simple as that. So, and that's where Deborah was asking. Like I said, Deborah, I'm gonna have a link. You can download the presentation afterward. That's fine. But you can also reach out to Claire on LinkedIn. You know, send her a message. I'm sure she'll respond. If you're nice. So
Absolutely.
I think I just wanted to take a different question. I'm probably gonna finish here. So okay, this is Bernard. Bernard, okay, we are based in peri-urban Mwanza and run a sizable, I don't know where, so where you from? Where you based? So peri-urban Mwanza, so but what country is it? So apologies, I don't know. Maybe you know, Claire. I
I
run
believe
a
it's
sizable,
Tanzania.
possibly, yeah, possibly. So I run a sizable biomass briquette initiative. We supply our wood briquette to schools. That's very good. So how do we join the carbon credit facility? Claire?
So the first step with to joining or to getting engaged in any of these markets is for us to conduct a preliminary assessment of your project. So this would look at your specific project, the dynamics of the project, and be able to quantify the volume of credits. So that is the starting point. Let's find out what your project is. Let's put it down in numbers and um, volumes, and then engage from there.
Okay, excellent. Anything else that you want to add to that, or that's good enough? Claire?
I think maybe just to respond to the previous question from
Okay,
on LPG. So
okay,
improved cook stoves use biomass, but with high efficient stoves. So in a case where you would have used 5 kilograms of charcoal, you're now able to use 1 kilogram. So in the saving that's generated between the biomass use, you're able to quantify that in terms of tons of CO2. LPG is a say contentious issue because on one hand you have LPG that burns with no emissions. How the downside is that it is still produced from fossil fuels, which is essentially the cause of all the climate issues that we are having. So that's the primary difference. One reduces biomass, the other, despite the fact that it burns without any emissions, it is also produced from a source that is highly emitting. So it's a balance of the two.
okay. Excellent. Excellent. Well, I think we're gonna call it a day right now, okay? Like I said, because why if we continue, or we're gonna have more and more questions that we're taking, which is not bad. That's what we want. But obviously, we also need to bring it to the end because, like I say, so the Claire is probably busy with other projects she needs to run. But I wanted to thank you, Claire, for taking the time to come and talking to us today about the carbon finance and talking about how we can tap into sustainable growth. And some fantastic news today saying that, okay, people even with smaller projects, there's a way for them, they can participate, they can engage, which is a fantastic news because most of the time people were a little bit frustrated. Say that, okay, I have a small project, which, let's be honest, that's going to be the majority of most of the developers or project in the continent, but they could not engage. And they had the impression that this mechanism was just designed as usual, only for the big guys. But what about us? That's what they were thinking. So South Pole are coming up with an initiative whereby they bring those projects together and allow you to tap into that. So what I would do, I would strongly advise you to reach out to us and reach out to me. I'll be more than happy to see how I can direct you and get you to participate into that. I'm going to have a link below, so in the comments, yeah, for you to obviously look at the presentations. And then if there's anything else that Claire wants to share, so she will share, and I will share that with you. But what you have to do is to make sure that you share the video with as many people as possible. It's going to be there all on replay for a few days. So Claire, I'm just going to have you have the last words, and then we can call it a day. So, what is the last final thing you want to say?
I believe that the African continent has, everyone says that Africa has great potential, but very few of us actually go ahead and identify where this potential lies and how to utilize it. One of the unfortunate things that has happened within the renewable energy sector is that there has been massive investment that has gone in, particularly last year, where about only less than 5% of investment globally in renewable energy came to Africa. But we're still saying that the continent has the greatest potential. So how are we going to stop being a potential and start taking action towards using the resources that we have? Did you know that the Congo Basin has the highest form of stored carbon globally? It's higher than the Amazon. The amount of carbon that is stored within the Congo Basin is equivalent to 3 years of the emissions that we emit across the world. And that is Africa. That's only two aspects of what Africa is. So as Africa, we need to start taking control of these opportunities. We need to start using these opportunities. And we need to start benefiting from the resources that we have. Thank you, Tony.
Okay, thank you very much, Claire. And like I say, I'm very much certain that in the future we may have the opportunity to expand a little bit more. That was a broad introduction of what carbon market, carbon finance is from an expert. Because I'm sure most of you heard from me. It was good to bring you on. So thank you very much, Claire. And like I say, so I definitely will be catching up with you later.
Thank you. And thank you.
Okay, guys. So that's it. So hopefully you enjoyed it. Like I say, it was a short presentation, kind of short, right? So, but you're gonna have the slide. I'm gonna have a link, and when you click on the link, you'll be able to download the presentation. If you have some more questions, make sure that you drop them there because we may actually use that to figure out what's going to be the next topic we bring to you to give you as much information as possible. But there are some very good announcement today, right? The fact that if you're a small project, you can still participate into the program, into the initiative. You know, with South Pole in particular in this case. But like I say, so it's only up to you to figure out how can you be part of the solution. It's definitely possible. That's what I had to say for today. So as usual, we're going to bring you more and more video, and we want you to engage. And if you have products and services on the topic of anything regarding renewables energy, make sure that you engage with us because our job is to make sure that you are visible, to make sure that you get leads, to make sure that you make sales, and to make sure that we can grow this industry together. Guys, you have a fantastic day, and I see you